Welcome back to the Pistol Report. My name is John Francois. I'm a senior instructor with Archangel Technologies. And in our last video, we covered bullet weight and bullet speed. This time we're going to cover calibers and what those mean. But we're going to do a refresher about our last video. I have some updates for you. So before we start, let's do our 4 rules of gun safety. The guns are always loaded, which means always think that the gun is loaded. Always assume that any firearm somebody hands you is loaded. Number 2, don't put your finger within the trigger guard or on the trigger until you're on target. Number 3, know your target and what's beyond it. That means if something is behind the target that you're aiming at that you might not want to hit, you know that, so you can choose not to shoot. And number 4, always make sure the barrel of your pistol is pointing in a safe direction, even if it's just sitting on a table somewhere. So now that we have that, let's get right to it. And so we're going to do a quick refresher in regards to cartridges. So you have your primer, your shell casing, your propellant, which is in the shell casing, then your projectile with a lead core and a copper jacket. And the jacket basically is there to make the lead, cover the lead, and make it a harder projectile in case it hits something and it won't start to deform. So from our last video, we were covering things like bullet speed and cartridges. And so what we're going to do now is go back to the shell casing design. And so hopefully this is a lot larger and you can see it better. This is your rimless cartridge, which goes into semi-automatic pistols, and then you have your rimmed, straight-walled cartridge that goes into revolvers and some older rifles. So you can see you have that little bit of a taper and you have that groove all the way around it so that the extractor can pull that empty casing out of your firearm. And then next, we're going to go ahead and cover the image of an actual cartridge in a chamber. And as you may recall, but this is a larger picture, you have the chamber, you have the cartridge and the bullet where it's seated in the chamber. There are the lines that depict the lands and grooves. When the bullet is forced through the barrel, those lands and grooves that we talked about engage the bullet and cause it to impart a spin to it. And then we have the one view of the lands and grooves that we discussed. This is a larger one also, and hopefully you can see it a lot better. So you have your lands, which are the raised parts, and your grooves. This is from the perspective of looking through a barrel. And so next, we're going to get back to the projectile speed. So I blew this one up also in case somebody wants to take notes and have it down. This is the formula to convert feet per second into miles per hour. So if you take whatever the feet per second is listed on the box of your ammo or your chronograph it, then you multiply it by 0.6818, that number that you get will be in miles per hour. And after that, we're going to cover the bullet weight again. And hopefully, like I said, everybody can see this a lot better. So right here you have 437.5 grains in 1 ounce. So bullets are always measured in grains. And as you go down, we have some of the average weights. 115 grain for a 9mm. You have 230 grain for a 45, and so on. And so next, we're going to cover bullet diameter or caliber. So we can take some of these down, and basically the one we want to want up deals with the projectile caliber. Now, when we talk about caliber, you're talking about the diameter of the bullet or the projectile. So it's based upon 1 inch, but there's also metric in there because some of our cartridges, particularly the 9mm, was developed in Europe. And so in Europe, they use the metric system. And so the 9mm is the standard go-to round. Basically, it's the most popular handgun cartridge around today. And so then you have the 10mm, which was not developed in Europe, but the reason they use 10mm is because the .40 Smith & Wesson basically is a 10mm bullet in a shorter casing. And that because the casing is shorter, there's less pressures and the recoil isn't as much as the 10mm. So you have the diameter of the bullet in standard would be .45 is 0.45 of 1 inch. You do have .50 or 50 caliber handgun rounds, and those, that's 1/2 of an inch. So we'll cover a lot more of this as we get closer to covering terminal ballistics. So until next time, everybody have a good one.